I don't usually wake up for noises. Living alone in a quiet neighborhood means you train your ears to ignore the creaks and groans of the house settling, the wind brushing the shutters, the occasional raccoon knocking over the trash can. But that night, I woke up instantly. I didn't bolt upright like they do in the movies. I just opened my eyes, no dream, no transition, just awake. 3 a.m. I stared at the glowing red digits on my alarm clock, confused. Then the sound repeated, distant but clear. Ding dong. The doorbell. I live in the middle of a dead-end street. My nearest neighbor is about a quarter-mile down the hill, and there are no kids in the area. So who the hell was ringing my doorbell at 3 in the morning? At first, I stayed in bed. Maybe it was a mistake. A drunk delivery guy. But then it rang again. Not a knock. A ring. Intentional. Not rushed. Polite. I threw off the covers and padded to the front door, my heart thudding hard, but not from fear. Not yet. I looked through the peephole. No one. I switched on the porch light. Still no one. I waited a few seconds before I opened the door. I know, that's when you're supposed to call the cops or check your cameras. But the quiet was so total, so unnatural, it felt like the silence was watching me back. I cracked the door open and looked down. There was a note on the doormat. Cream-colored paper, perfectly square. No envelope. It read, "You are awake. We can come in now." That's all. No signature. No explanation. And just as I was reading it, I realized. The porch light had gone out. I stepped back instinctively, clutching the note like it might burn through my skin. The porch light flickered once, then again. Then nothing. Darkness swallowed the steps, the railing, the hedges beyond. I reached for the switch inside. Flicked it off, then on again. Nothing. Power was still on inside the house. The hallway light glowed behind me, my refrigerator still hummed from the kitchen. But the porch light, dead. I should have closed the door right then. Locked it. Called someone. Anyone. But instead, I took one step forward. Just one. I leaned out, trying to see if someone had run off, some prank, some dare. Maybe a teenager. But the silence was heavy now. Not like the quiet of 3 a.m. No bugs, no wind. No rustling branches. No distant highway. Nothing. Then the note in my hand changed. It shouldn't have, but I swear to you, I watched it happen. The neat black script shimmered, just for a second, and new words appeared beneath the first line. You opened the door. You let us see you. I staggered back. My mouth opened but no sound came out. The door slammed shut, not by my hand, but like someone behind it had yanked it from me. I twisted the lock. Backed away. My hallway lights flickered. The living room TV turned on by itself. Static. No input. Just snow and that soft, high-pitched whine behind it. And then, the doorbell rang again. Ding dong. But this time, it wasn't from the front door. It was from inside the house. It took me a second to process what I'd heard. Ding dong. But it wasn't the mechanical chime from the front door. It was lower. A warped tone. Like an old analog bell distorted through broken speakers. And it came from the hallway. No one else lives here. I've only got one doorbell. No fancy smart home gadgets. No prank apps or connected systems. I stood frozen, breath held, listening. Ding dong. Again. I followed the sound slowly, step by step, my bare feet pressing into the cold hardwood floor. The hallway stretched ahead of me, dim under the flickering lights. At the very end of the hall was a door I never used. The guest room. Nothing special. Just boxes and old furniture. But the sound was coming from behind it. Ding dong. I reached for the handle, half expecting it to be ice cold like in some horror cliché. It wasn't. It was warm. Too warm. When I opened it, the room was pitch black. Not dark, black. Like the space inside the door had been replaced by a void. I backed away instantly. Then I heard something new. Footsteps. Slow, soft, deliberate. Not walking toward me, but around me. As if someone had stepped from the room without me seeing them. As if they were circling just out of sight. And then the lights went out. All of them. I was alone, in total darkness, heart hammering, clutching that cursed note. Then, a whisper. You should have stayed asleep. I spun around in the dark, trying to pinpoint the voice, but it came from everywhere and nowhere at once. Male? Female? Old? Young? I couldn't tell. It was like it didn't use sound, just inserted itself directly into my mind. You should have stayed asleep. I bolted back toward the living room, bumping into furniture, knocking over a lamp. My phone, I needed my phone. Call someone. Anyone. When I found it on the coffee table, the screen was already on. It had a new notification. Missed call, unknown, 3 a.m. I stared at it. Then the phone rang again. Same name, unknown. I didn't answer. It stopped after one ring. Then the screen lit up with a text message. Don't move. I froze. The hair on the back of my neck stood straight. And then, barely audible, like a breath behind my ear, I heard it again. Good. Now turn around slowly. I didn't want to. I shouldn't have. But something in me moved before I could stop it. I turned. There was someone standing in the kitchen doorway. Not a silhouette. Not a shadow. A figure, completely still, had tilted at an unnatural angle, as if their neck had bent halfway through a nod and never came back. They wore something loose, like a hospital gown soaked in something dark. I couldn't see their face. Not because it was in shadow, but because where the face should have been, there was just more nothing. An absence. A black hole in the shape of a human head. It raised one hand and pointed at me. Not accusing. Not threatening. Inviting. I couldn't move. Couldn't blink. The figure didn't waver, just stood there, pointing. The gesture looked patient. Like it could wait forever for me to obey. I took a shaky step back. And it matched me. One step forward. I bolted. Down the hallway, toward the stairs. I didn't care where I was going, just away. As I reached the bottom step, the house groaned around me like it was shifting, like the walls themselves were trying to bend in my direction. That's when I noticed something that made my blood run cold. All the picture frames on the wall, every one of them, had changed. Photos of me, smiling with friends, family, vacations, all replaced. Every single frame now held the same image. Me. Standing in the living room. Wearing my exact clothes from tonight. Staring at the front door. Eyes wide. Mouth slightly open. Behind me, in every photo, was that same faceless figure. Closer in each one. I didn't take those pictures. No one did. That's when I heard the doorbell again. Ding dong. But this time, 3 tones. Not 2. Ding dong ding. My door doesn't do that. Then came a creaking sound from the floor above. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Coming down the stairs I just ran up. Only. I was alone in the house. I thought. I froze halfway up the stairs, too terrified to go up, too afraid to go back down. The footsteps continued. Measured. Deliberate. Each one groaned against the old wood, like whatever was coming didn't care about being quiet. It wanted me to hear. I backed down slowly, one step at a time, never taking my eyes off the top of the staircase. Then, just before the thing came into view, it stopped. Right at the top. Silence. Nothing moved. No breathing. No creaking. But I felt it. Watching. Waiting. Then something slid into view and dropped down one step, a hand. But it wasn't reaching for me. It was dragging something. I heard the dull thud-thud of it being pulled down stair by stair. It was a body. A copy of me. Same pajamas, same shirt, same everything. Unmoving. Mouth open. Eyes rolled back. I stumbled backward into the wall, scrambling for the door. Ding dong ding. The bell again. I turned and ran for the front door, threw it open, no hesitation this time, and slammed it shut behind me. But I wasn't outside. I was back in my hallway. The same hallway. But longer. Too long. The walls now stretched far past where they should have ended. The hardwood under my feet pulsed, like something beneath was breathing. The hallway was lined with doors. Too many. None of which had ever existed before. And every one of them had a note pinned to it. Each one read the same message. You are awake. You are seen. You are next. I didn't want to read another word. I didn't want to touch the doorknobs or check what lay behind them. But I couldn't help it. There was something about the hallway, like it pulled at me. Like the air itself tugged at my arms, nudging me forward. The doors were all identical. Plain, wooden, painted a muted gray. Each one with that same note, handwritten in black ink, pinned dead center. You are awake. You are seen. You are next. I reached out to the first knob. Cold. Too cold. Like it had been waiting in winter. I twisted it slowly, bracing for some nightmare to lunge out. The door opened. Inside was my bedroom. But not my bedroom now. It was my room from when I was 9 years old. Same blue rocket ship sheets. Same glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. The stuffed bear I lost on a camping trip when I was 10 sat neatly on the pillow. And standing at the foot of the bed was me. 9-year-old me. Frozen. Like a doll set in place. Head cocked slightly to the side. Mouth slightly open. I stepped into the room. My younger self didn't react. And then I saw the mirror. It hung on the far wall, cracked down the middle. I caught a glimpse of my reflection. Except, it wasn't me. The thing in the mirror wore my face, but its eyes were wrong. Too many of them. Rows stacked vertically down its cheeks, all blinking out of sync. It lifted a hand in the mirror. So did the boy. Then they both grinned. The boy whispered. Close the door. I did. Because I didn't know what else to do. And when I turned back to the hallway, half the doors were open now. And something was stepping out of each one. They came out in silence. One by one. From every open door, a figure emerged, each version twisted, wrong. Some had no faces. Others had too many. Some dragged themselves along the walls with elongated limbs. Some walked perfectly upright but with movements that mimicked my own, down to the twitch in my left eye when I'm nervous. They were all me. Versions of me that shouldn't exist. A me with no eyes and a wide, lipless grin. A me with skin stretched too tight, veins pulsing visibly like roots beneath thin ice. A me who crawled on all fours, the bones of its legs bent the wrong way. And worst of all, at the very back of the procession, was a version that looked almost normal. But its eyes never blinked. Not once. I didn't wait. I ran. I sprinted down the endless hallway, dodging closed doors, passing the open ones with glimpses of memories too painful to relive, my grandmother's funeral, my worst birthday, the night I broke someone's heart and left without saying goodbye. They all played out in those rooms. Echoes of guilt. I reached the end of the hall, or what I thought was the end, and slammed into another door. This one had no handle. Just a keyhole. Taped to the door was a fresh note. Still handwritten. Still that same ink. But this time, it said, "One of you has the key. Ask nicely." Behind me, I heard them catching up. Dozens of me's. All smiling. All waiting. I turned around slowly. They had stopped a few feet away, fanned out in a crescent like a warped welcoming committee. None of them spoke, but their eyes, all versions of mine, distorted in different ways, were fixed on me. I took a shaky step forward, raising my hands. "Okay," I said, voice cracking. "Which one of you has the key?" No response. The one with no mouth tilted its head. The crawling version giggled, a wet, insectal rasp from somewhere deep in its throat. The one with the too wide smile took a step forward and held out a closed fist. I hesitated. It nodded once. I approached carefully and held out my hand. "Please," I whispered. It opened its fingers. The key sat there, small, old, rusted. A jagged edge glinted under the hallway's dim light. But just as I reached for it, its hand snapped shut. Its grin widened. Then it spoke, with my voice. "Say the rest." "What rest?" I asked, heart hammering. The others began to whisper in unison, low, overlapping murmurs. "You are awake. You are seen. You are next." Then they added something new. "You are us now." I didn't know what it meant. Didn't want to. But I repeated it anyway, voice barely above a breath. "You are awake. You are seen. You are next. You are us now." The key dropped into my palm like a dead insect. Every version of me bowed their head in eerie synchronicity. And just like that, they vanished. I turned to the door, heart pounding, key trembling in my grip. I slid it into the lock. It fit. I turned it. The door opened to a blinding white light. And the sound of a heartbeat. The light was overwhelming, like staring into the sun but cold. So cold it made my teeth ache. I stepped through the doorway shielding my eyes, and as I crossed the threshold, the door vanished behind me. Not closed. Not hidden. Gone. I stood in a room so white, it had no shadows. No corners. No walls, really, just infinite whiteness stretching in all directions. The kind of place your mind tells you shouldn't exist. Except it did. And the heartbeat was still there. Slow. Steady. Loud. It didn't echo, it resonated. I felt it in my chest, like it was syncing with my own pulse. The sound seemed to come from above, but when I looked up, there was only more white. Then a figure appeared. Just appeared. No footsteps, no entrance. 1 second I was alone, the next, it was standing 10 feet away. It was tall, impossibly thin, wearing a black suit that looked sewn from shadow. No face. Just a smooth stretch of blank skin where features should have been. But it spoke. Not aloud, inside my head. "Welcome." I stumbled back. "What is this? What do you want?" "You opened the door." "I didn't mean to." "You answered." The heartbeat quickened. My vision shimmered. "What happens now?" I whispered. The figure tilted its head. You remember. Then the whiteness peeled away. Like paint washing down glass, it melted into something familiar, the street outside my house. But something was off. The houses were wrong. The trees were twisted, sagging. The sky was a shade I've never seen, gray laced with red veins. And across the street was another me. Standing still. Staring. Holding the same note. You are awake. We can come in now. The other me didn't move. He just stood there, mirroring everything about me. Same posture, same shirt, even the tiny scar on my chin from when I fell off my bike as a kid. The only difference was his eyes. They were black. No whites. No color. Just deep, empty voids. He raised his hand, same slow, deliberate motion I'd seen from the figure in the suit, and held up the note. You are awake. We can come in now. His lips didn't move. But the words echoed all around me. We can come in now. Something shifted behind me. I turned. There were more versions of me. 100. 1,000. All frozen mid-movement. Some looking up. Some looking down. Others standing in doorways, in windows, on sidewalks, across fields. Each one holding the same note. I turned back to the original doppelganger, heart racing, and shouted, "Why me?" He finally moved. Took one slow step forward. You answered, he said. We only need one. One what? He smiled, my smile, but wrong. Hollow. One door. One dreamer. One entry. The world around me warped, like film melting under heat. The sky darkened. That heartbeat returned, faster now. Louder. And then I realized. It wasn't a heartbeat. It was knocking. From inside my house. Thump thump. Thump thump. The sound grew sharper. More insistent. Like fists pounding through wood from the inside out. I blinked, and I was back in my living room. Not the twisted reflection. Not the white room. Home. Except, not quite. The walls were wrong. Too damp. Too dark. My couch was in the wrong place. The TV was on, but nothing played, just black screen and static hum. And the front door was rattling on its hinges. Thump thump thump. Each knock made the frame tremble. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. I picked it up with shaking hands. A single message, from my own number. Let us finish it. The door shuddered again. Then fell silent. No more knocking. No more anything. Just, breathless stillness. And then the door handle started to turn. Slow. Steady. They were letting themselves in. I backed into the hallway, heart racing. My mind screamed at me to wake up, to scream, to run, but I just kept retreating until my back hit the mirror near the stairs. Only, it didn't reflect me. It showed my living room, normal. Clean. Lit by soft morning sun. Empty. Then I saw it, my real reflection. On the other side of the mirror. Pounding on the glass. Eyes wide. Mute. I wasn't in my house anymore. I was trapped behind the reflection. And something else had taken my place. I screamed, but no sound came out. My hands pounded the glass, but it didn't budge. I watched as my reflection, the thing pretending to be me, stepped calmly toward the front door and opened it. It didn't hesitate. It welcomed them in. Figures entered, one after another, stepping into my house like guests arriving for a dinner party. Some looked like strangers, others like people I vaguely recognized from distant memories. Old classmates. Childhood neighbors. People I hadn't seen in decades, most of them long dead. They moved like puppets. Hollow smiles. Lifeless eyes. And at the center of them all, that faceless figure in the black suit. It turned to the mirror, to me, and tilted its head. It raised one hand. And snapped its fingers. The mirror cracked. Just a hairline fracture across the center. But I felt it in my bones. A splitting. Like something inside me had been pried loose. Behind me, the world began to dissolve. Not just fade, melt. The walls turned to dripping black sludge. The ceiling rippled and collapsed inward like a popped balloon. The floor gave way beneath my feet. I fell. Down through darkness. No wind. No end. Just an endless descent into something deeper. And then, from far below, I saw them again. All the versions of me. Waiting. Hands raised. Ready to catch me. I braced for impact, but it never came. Their hands didn't catch me. They absorbed me. Like sinking into flesh made of memory. I felt every version of myself bleed through me at once, childhood fears, teenage guilt, adult shame, all of it pressing in like wet cotton, suffocating and cold. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't scream. I was being folded into them. And they whispered in 1,000 voices that all sounded like mine. You are us. We are you. One dreamer. One door. We come through what we know. I saw flashes behind my eyes, moments I didn't even remember having. That time I almost drowned. That time I got lost in the grocery store as a kid. That night I thought someone was standing at the foot of my bed, but when I turned the light on, there was no one there. They'd always been there. Waiting. Through every fear. Every shadow. Every crack in the door I left open just a little too long. Then I was standing again. Not in my house. Not in the hallway. But in a room made of mirrors. Every surface reflected a different version of me, some screaming, some still, some smiling with too many teeth. And in the very center of the room. A chair. A single, wooden chair facing a wall where no reflection showed. A blank space. An invitation. I knew what they wanted. It was my turn. To sit. To become the watcher. The doorbell rang again. But this time. It was coming from inside my head. The ringing didn't stop. It echoed through my skull, relentless and sharp, like someone pounding on bone instead of wood. I staggered toward the chair in the center of the mirror room, each step feeling heavier, more distant from myself. As I sat down, everything stopped. Silence. The mirrors around me darkened. One by one, they flickered back to life, not showing me, but others. Dozens. Hundreds. People sleeping. People reading. People staring out their windows late at night, unaware of the thing watching from the corner of their room. A girl scrolling her phone, not noticing the shadow reflected in her screen. A man brushing his teeth as something moved just behind the fogged bathroom mirror. And one screen showed my living room. But it wasn't empty anymore. That thing that had replaced me sat on the couch, wearing my face, smiling gently at a photo on the wall. It turned its head. And looked directly at the screen I was watching from. At me. It raised its hand. And held up a fresh note. Thank you. Then all the screens blinked out. Only one remained. A new one. A child. Sitting in their bed, eyes wide open. Staring into the darkness of their room, where something was moving just outside the closet door. My hands moved on their own. I leaned forward. And I watched. The end.